Welcome back again to the Ivory Tower Collections. I've got something really cool to show today. I received a new Genesis homebrew game, courtesy of the company Play on Retro, late last week. And I've had a chance to play it, and it's really cool, and I wanted to share it with you guys. And that game is this right here. L'Abbey des Morts, which, my French is horrible, but it translates to the Abbey of the Dead. And that's because the primary location where the game takes place is inside of an old, haunted, abandoned monastery that contains lots of evil. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about L'Abbey des Morts. So the game was originally programmed and coded in the concept behind it was from several years ago. Originally, it was created for the ZX Spectrum, which of course was a popular 8-bit computer in Europe, but not so much here. And as a result of that popularity, it became ported to other systems. And specifically, this is the MegaDrive / Genesis port, but it also contains a lot of other versions of the game as well. The game was originally programmed and conceived by Juan Becerra, who also goes by Locomolito, as well as Javier Garcia, most commonly known as Grisor87. And to be honest, this game is a huge collaborative effort of not just those two individuals, but many other artists and programmers as well. So the basic gameplay is, it takes place in the early 13th century during a very dark period of history involving two different religious factions, both of Christian faith, but primarily between the Cathars and the Catholics, Catholicism. But anyway, the cool thing about this package is Play on Retro. I also have their other first release. This is their second release. Their other first release, called Many Planets, is also came similarly like this. They have just got a great presentation with their overall releases, and L'Abbey des Morts is no exception. So as you can see, it's designed to look like an old book, and you might be able to see that there's some glossy embossed imprints on the covers and around it. There's one with a really cool dragon on the back here. Not sure if I can get him to show up or not. So yeah, let's take a look at the inside contents real quick. Now I have the Deluxe Limited Edition release, so it came with considerably more items than the usual standard release does, but I can describe that as well. So the standard release, if I'm not mistaken, will consist of the game itself, as well as the personalized postcard at minimum. And then I know that you can order some other things that came in the deluxe edition separately as well. So in addition to the game and the postcard, we also got this cool fold-out poster featuring some artwork of the game. And it's probably not going to all fit in frame, so I'll just have to move it up and down a little bit. And it also came with this really secretive wax-sealed envelope that, as far as I know, nobody has yet dared to open. Not sure what's inside of it. It's secret. The Deluxe Limited Edition also came with this little art book called the Fabularium, and it contains sketches and drawings and concept art of the various enemies in the game. There's some really wonderful stuff in here. It's very detailed. And then again, like I said, an individual personalized postcard that contains artwork, the main title artwork for the game. And then you have the game itself, which comes in a standard black grid Genesis case from like the very first releases. The game also features reversible artwork, and I won't show the other side. I'll leave that a surprise for those who might purchase this, but I will tell you it's very impressive. I usually have the reversed cover on this instead of this one. It's just really stunning. I like it a lot. So yeah, like all normal Genesis games, has some screenshots, etc. Now again, I have the deluxe edition, so mine's a little different on the inside, in that in addition to the normal manual, I also have the game cartridge itself, and mine came in this cool black velvet pouch that, as you can see, features the title of the game on it. And the cartridge is a standard Genesis type cartridge. I'll move the case off to the side here for a bit so it doesn't get in the way. With a semi-glossy label. It's really nice. Again, features the same artwork that you see on the front of the case. And then we have the instruction manual right here. And I gotta tell you, this instruction manual, I'm really impressed with it. It's a very high quality paper. It's textured. The printing on it is very rich and very colorful, very detailed as well, just like the Fabularium art book was. And it doesn't smear or rub off. And, you know, like most manuals, you know, it has a story and talks about the gameplay modes and, you know, descriptions of the controls and the enemies, things like that, basic gameplay. But yeah, it's really, really cool. So again, this is the collaborative effort of multiple people, but and you'll see why whenever I show you some gameplay video of the game here right now. Okay, so the game starts up like any other standard Genesis game. It's actually really, really cool. There's the Play On Retro logo, etc. And then we get some initial credits here. And we get the title screen for Abbey de Morts. So, here we go. So, what's really cool about this is that although this is for the MegaDrive / Genesis, there are actually other graphic modes that have been programmed into the game. For instance, it defaults to the MegaDrive or Genesis mode, but you also have an MSX and another computer type. I'm not sure what the PCW was. There's a Gameboy graphics mode, and there's a CGA graphics mode, like for really old DOS games. There's even a cool Commodore 64 graphics mode, and then there's the original graphics from the original game as it was coded back, I guess, around 2010, 2011 for just standard computers. The original game, just so you know, was programmed in style from like the old Spectrum ZX computers. So anyway, the only main difference between the different modes is really just the way the graphics look, and especially in most of these, it's really just different palette changes. There are some slight changes with animation and such, like background animation. The only real version that's really different from the others as far as the way it sounds is really the Commodore 64 version. And that's because it actually emulates the music and as if there was a SID chip being used. But the sound effects on all the versions are identical. So we'll just play with the Genesis / MegaDrive version here. Oh, there is an options section. And initially you just have two levels, normal and hard. The game's hard enough as it is, so I'm not sure how much different that would be. You can also define again which version you want to play. There is a jukebox, so you can choose the different music you want to listen to, as well as the different sound effects. So let's get started with Abbey de Morts. Alright, here we go. So the basic storyline is at the early part of the 13th century, the Cathars religion was heavily criticized and was being sought after by the Crusades because the Roman Catholic Church considered the Cathars to be heretics. So you play the role of Jean Raymond, or Jean Raymond, or Jean Raymond, and he is a Cathar who is escaping persecution, and in this case, execution by the Crusader Knights. And what he does is he seeks refuge in an old abandoned monastery, and you're locked in. And then the idea of the game is that it's basically a platformer. So here you are, and the only function you have is strictly jump. You don't shoot anything. So really it's about timing and dodging the obstacles, in this case mostly the enemies, but there's also environmental obstacles as well. So you have different things that you can interact with. For instance, you will see that there's this tombstone in front of me, and when you touch it, it'll switch the cross emblem on it, and you'll hear a little noise. And basically, these act as save markers. So anytime you pass one of these and you have the chance to do so, you should actually touch it so that you'll continue from that point on should you mess up and lose a life. There are also these little scroll parchments that are found throughout the levels or throughout the screens, and they give you clues to how to solve some of the puzzles, perhaps in that room or in another room, as well as additional elements to the storyline. You will also find these beating red hearts on different levels. Now, touching a heart will actually increase your life meter. The life meter is located in the lower left-hand corner. You'll see that I currently have 5. That means I have 5 extra men. Also, you'll see a cross next to it that currently has a 0. On different parts of these screens, there will be crosses that you will have to collect. And in essence, you have to collect, I believe, like 12 crosses, which are required to defeat the final enemy at the game. So you'll see that I collected a heart there. Okay, now I'm going to ring this bell. Now, as it turns out, you have to ring that bell in order to continue on in this particular section. Yeah, so let me just kind of drop down here, avoid these little rats. Okay, 12 crosses against the devil. So see right here it tells you that you need the 12 crosses. And I just picked up my first cross. So as you can see, the graphics are very colorful. They are of a minimal style, but now see right there, you heard that little noise, and what happened was a passageway opened up down here below that wasn't available previously, and that opened up when I rang the bell up in the bell tower previously. So you can see that there are different environments. Oh, and one of those little seed things hit me, so I died. You really just pretty much can't touch anything in this game, or it will end your life. Well, I'm not doing very well, am I? There. Give me an extra guy. Now, I believe that's water dripping from the ceiling, but it will still kill you. On some levels, there are hidden passages that you just got to discover sort of by accident, and you can discover by squatting down like I am here, by just pushing down, and sometimes you'll go through the walls. There we go. Now you'll see that over on the right hand, kind of just off-centered right bottom there, there's this little green flashing spot, and that's a portal that can take me to another part of the monastery. Now as you can see, I can't go any further because the door's locked. So I'll have to find another way out. Like that. Oh. Again, just another hint here. Haven't quite figured out how to get that cross just yet. And get this cool little green monster dude that's bad news is going to try to come and get me. There we go, got me another heart. Touch another tombstone, and let's see, I should be able to go this way. So you get the basic idea of how the game works. Each screen is comprised of different types of enemies. Some of them do repeat, but they're in different patterns. Everything's always in a pattern. So it's really just a matter of finding out how to get past the enemies, the way they're situated on the screens, and to get all of the crosses, and to find your way to the ultimate boss battle, as it were, at the end. Now, I have actually found the boss at the end prior to having all of the crosses, and obviously I wasn't able to activate or try to defeat him. So, oh, we're back to this one again. Ah, yes. And yes, even though I had activated that tombstone earlier in the game, because I had activated a different one since then, the game essentially treats it as if I haven't been here before. So, okay, go like that, and like this. Here we go. I'm sort of skipping past some of these on purpose so as to not spoil anything for anybody that might be playing the game. Ah. Yes! Look at that. I actually managed to get another cross. I hadn't gotten that one before. So, yeah. That is the game of L'Abbey de Morts. So, here we go. Let me show you what some of the other graphic modes look like. Okay, so here under the Game Boy graphics mode, the game basically sounds the same. There is some added animation in the background on some levels, like you can see those moving clouds back there that weren't present in the Genesis version. But I also noticed that on this Game Boy version, the levels are a little bit different. Notice above me there are 2 gaps. And that wasn't the case on the Genesis version. And no, I'm playing under the standard normal difficulty level. So, yeah. So there is at least somewhat of a change there, and that the levels are laid out differently on this one. So this one's going to be more of a challenge, and then I'm going to have to jump from platform to platform, starting from here. Oh, that's not good. All right, let's look at another version. Okay, now let's take a look at the Commodore 64 version of this game that comes on the cartridge. Again, this one not only has different graphics and some different animations as well. The level layouts seem to be set up identically to the MegaDrive version, but the music is quite a bit different on this one because, again, it tries to emulate the sound of the original SID chip used in the Commodore 64. Now let's listen to some of the music and some of the sound effects in a little better detail. So overall, what are my impressions of L'Abbey des Morts? Well, I'm actually really impressed with it. I had played the original game that was released on the computer several years ago in the style of the ZX Spectrum, and thought it was a lot of fun. It's very challenging, so although it seems like a very simple platformer at heart, it's anything but. Some of the timing required to get past some of the enemies on some of the screens has to be just exact. Additionally, some of the jumps can be a little tricky as well. Graphically, the game is actually quite pleasing to look at. And the different options with the different palette modes is really interesting and can be really fun, especially when, like in the case of the Game Boy version, the levels are laid out a bit differently. So, yeah. If I had any real criticisms, it might be that while I think the music and the sound effects especially are really well done, I do think that there should be more music than what is available. Honestly, there's really only about maybe 3, maybe 4 primary tunes and throughout the game. And to me, after you've heard them a couple of times cycling through, it can get pretty old pretty quick. Additionally, the game honestly isn't very long. Once you've mastered everything that there is and know the patterns and know how to get through the game, then really it'll only take you maybe about a half hour or so to get through it. So as a result, the challenge for it would lessen quite a bit at that point. And that's why there's the whole hard mode. Unless, of course, you're a player like me and can't seem to survive regardless. Like that. Controls are very nice. Of course, it's very simple. You just have to worry about just moving left or right. There really isn't anything to worry about as far as up and down goes, because you can't really grab onto too much. But yeah, I'm actually quite impressed with the game. I think it is a lot of fun, even if it is hard for me, but that's okay. I like the challenge like this. And I'm going to be playing this quite a bit, because it is my goal to eventually beat this game. But not today.